know how to type. CMD, Unix, generic. There we go. I'm just trying to go too fast. That's the problem here. Okay, let's run this one more time. Set encoder. We're going to switch this back over to the IFS one. Okay, we're still getting our 302. This gotta have something to do with like what we're doing over here in Metasploit. So if that command that I wrote originally, that check is probably gonna need to be updated. Just make sure everything is working again. Do 3. And it is not working. Okay, so what I added in here is definitely breaking it. It's doing something. So that is problematic. So let's, all right. I think we can URI, let's try URI encoding the command, the inner one. Encode URI. I know there's a rex text function to do this. Rex text, maybe it's URI encode. So rex text is one of the libraries that ships with Metasploit, also maintained by the Metasploit team. That provides a bunch of like utility functions for exploitation. And I know we have a yeah, okay, we have this encode one right here, and there is one in here, URI encode. Okay, yeah, this is what I was looking for. So let's check this one out. Let's do rex text URI encode. So we'll only URI encode the inner command. And we'll actually undo the what the encoder is doing, because we may not actually need it if we can do it this way. And we'll run this, and this has been a lot of trial and error, but hey, that's tis how it goes. Okay, so that worked as I was hoping it would. So we are running bin sh with the command touch just like that. Do we have bin sh? We do have bin sh. And if we do bin sh-c, that is incorrect. Okay, so that would definitely be the problem. What am I doing wrong here? Was it like capital C? Does it have to be bash something? Okay, we'll switch that over to bash. That is definitely a problem. We run this again. And this time, okay, so we are running bash -c and then our command. Bin bash, just double checking that everything is correct. IFS. Because if we copy this and execute it, okay, but then if that should be unencoded from URI. All right, that did work. Okay, maybe we do actually need to keep the IFS. Let's try keeping that. And probably help if I changed out the file. CMD. Okay, let's run this once more time. Waiting a couple of seconds. Okay, so we are still running into some issues with some bad characters, because that definitely should work. Okay. Missing file operand. All right. Unless this actually needs to be escaped. We'll delete all those files and then restart the watch. And sure, let's escape the $. See if this helps. And it does not. Oh, the $. Oh, whoops. Because I did not keep the $. I need to keep the $. And there we go. Okay, this time it worked. Okay, so we dropped it down there. So now we know that we are running in a subshell, which should mean that like our pipes and stuff like that should work. So let's go ahead and let's switch this back over to the Python interpreter. Because that is the payload that I really want. And there's some other bad characters in there that might need to be escaped. Okay, yes, just gonna take that one on out. I'm looking through here. I mean, the single quotes might be problematic, but all the $signs are being properly escaped now. Unless the back quotes need to be escaped as well. The backslashes, I mean. Let's try that. When in doubt, you gotta add more backslashes. Still does not look like it added the backslashes I was expecting it to, though. Okay, yeah, so these ones are all doubled up now. So let's take this and copy and paste this command one more time, see if that actually does work and what that gives us. Okay, yes, we are definitely getting a syntax error. We're getting a syntax error around the pipe. That's weird because the echo command is not found. Well, that would definitely be a problem. I wonder why the echo command is not present or is not defined. Sure, yeah, let's go ahead and try bin echo. So let's see, the way we would do that. Total hacks. Let's try it. Or excuse me, bin. Yeah, that should be bin echo. And that gets put together. Which echo? Where are we at here? Oh, user bin echo. Okay, I gotta do it that way. Trying to narrow down the problem. Still got our 302 and this. That looks more correct. We're definitely dealing in varying degrees of correctness. Okay, command. I'm wondering if there's something to do with like how bash is actually being started. I'm pretty sure, yeah. I mean, it should just be, okay, here we are. help set for more information about the help commands. It's telling you to specify -C to execute a command, right? No RC, no profile, login. Not 100% sure. It was complaining about the slashes though. Let's comment. Let's take this on out just for a moment and double check this. Let's see, someone is asking, maybe it's not using bash. So it might not be using bash in the exploit, but I'm pretty confident it's using bash down here because like I am actually running it. And right now, it looks like it's actually running the payload. So that's actually pretty promising. Python interpreter versus TCP. To handler. Okay, cool. So the payload is going to work. Total hacks right there. So that command at least did really work. And the fact that it didn't work up in here, we had our fail with, oh, I'm going to feel like a fool if this is actually the problem. The module's probably not catching the session. I bet that time it actually worked. Let's cut these out. Set WFS delay up to 10 seconds. Rerun. Previous set WFS delay. WFS delay is the wait for session delay. And let's rerun it. Successfully execute a command. Did you? Do I have a session? Of course it says it successfully executed a command. But we didn't get anything. Got to be so close. Okay, so something is wrong here, but yeah, okay, so if we run this and at the same time we run that, we do get the session. Okay, so it is really, really close to thinking it's correct. Oh, I wonder if the command is being executed in the context of a string with the interpolation, which would mean that the double quote probably needs to be extra escaped. Still waiting. Okay, that did not do the trick. We're definitely getting closer here. Just a little, couple more slashes. You never know. Okay, still seem to be... Alright, the extra slashes did not help. Let's pop these on out again. Okay, so we're going to go back to the drawing board. Reload. Okay, we have HTTP. Just reloading like every single time, because of course I'm like running the module here. So I've been copying everything within those parentheses. Let's see about doing it outside and see if we get a different error. No, that still worked. Okay. Okay, that still worked, which is interesting. What if we do it like this? Is that going to work? That also still works. Okay, now I'm getting stumped. Let's something is You know, I am remembering now that they worked around this in the original in a slightly different way. They ended up base64 encoding the payload, passing it into dbase64, and then they piped it into bash. So let's take a look back. I probably could have looked to see how they did it ahead of time a little bit more. So they are echoing the base64, they're piping it into base64 to decode it. This would certainly work. We could just base64 encode our payload and probably call it a day. Realizing I probably should have thought about that like 15 minutes ago. Let's try. I don't like base64 encoding unnecessarily because it's going to inflate your payload, and because this is in the URI, we have that limited set of space. But I mean, if it's going to work, it's going to work, and it might be beneficial for us to just move on with the stream to get the check method working, and then just try to wire up the other payloads. So let's see about. Let's swap this around and do it the way that they are doing it. We're crediting them as an author anyway, so it's all good. Let's see here, pulling up some notes. All right. Yeah, so we're gonna start out with this again. And let's go into echo IFS, and we will take our payload. The payload's gonna have pipes in it though, so that's not gonna work. Yeah, you know what? Let's just go ahead and base64 encode it. We'll just go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, Merx text encode base64. Well, we tried to do it the fancy way first. All right, so now we're going to do the command. We're going to pipe that into base64-D, I believe is how they were doing that. So we're doing exactly what they're doing with the base64, but we're going to use our own payload instead of the one that they have that's hard-coded. Okay, drop that in right there. That should all work. I think we can remove these spaces though. Those don't necessarily look required, but we will double check that. It's telling me I made some kind of a mistake. Oh, it's because I'm missing a comma back here. And it's telling me I'm still missing things. Awesome. It's going to be my normalized URI. That all looks correct. We don't need that. All right. Waiting for it. How did this go? Okay, so we still have no session created. That's problematic. Base64-D into IFS. We might not actually need to encode the payload anymore because it's base64'd. So we're going to execute that command. And still waiting. Still no session. We're gonna kill out the previous session so I can get my shell back down here. Okay, so our base64 encoded payload is not working. We were doing the exact same thing. We can go back and try the generic again, just to try to eliminate that out as a possibility. see. Bump this on up into 5. I gotta comment this out. This is like throwing me off every time. It says it worked, but it didn't. So. Okay, this does in fact have base 64. So if we come up in here and we look at this, oh, of course, I'm missing something. I'm missing something silly. It was that parenthesis that I had taken out. Silly mistake after silly mistake. That got put back in, so now we are echoing that. I'm still not seeing my payload created. So again, okay, so that one definitely still worked. That's interesting because this is what they used. Took all of this, including the trailing IFS. Nothing is encoded anymore. Echo $, IFS. Yeah, I mean, that all looks correct to me. When I'm down here, it echoes, or excuse me, it executes correctly. No, that's the same bash not found. Okay, but when it's down here, wondering if the equal sign is a bad character, because that would be within the URI. That could cause problems with it. Okay, so to remove the equal sign, I mean, we could URI encode it. We can try URI encoding it, or we can try padding the command until the base 64 encoding doesn't give any padding. We'll try URI encoding it first, though. Okay, yes, we got our %3D right there. Because if you saw from their original, there was no equal sign at the very end. So the base 64 encoding didn't require any padding there. So, okay. To remove that, move this. Okay. Actually, we can validate this by doing it by hand. Let's rerun this again. So that did require that. So let's do set cmd 61. Okay, that did not require an equal sign. But touchpone 61 did not work. I'm still kind of confused why that is not working. Because that is running correctly. Okay, so removing out all the pwn files. Yeah, we have, there's a little less to look at. All right. Next, let's check if the web server has gone wonky. I don't think it has, because I mean, I can pull up Postman again. Let's pull up Postman and run it from there and make sure that everything is still online. I mean, it would be pretty tragic if it ended up updating itself again. I would laugh. I would laugh before I weeped. It did. Oh my God, it did update itself again. Oh my goodness. I'm not on camera, but this would be a table flip moment right here. Oh my goodness. Okay. Fool me once, shame on you. But now it is shame on me. I should have set up my virtual machine to not have connection to the internet. Man, like I know I went into that update script. Now I'm questioning like everything I did for the last like 20 minutes. Like how many of those solutions were actually viable? It changed. You all saw me. I went in here and I went in here and I commented that out and I put in like exit 0 and it did. It went in and actually ruined it for me. Okay. Oh, this is so sad. What do we have in here? Okay, CSF update. I know it's too late. I am going to wreck everything that might run any kind of an update next time. CSF-U. Spin CS. -U going to be the update? Yeah, you are going to update. No, don't do that. Yeah, I mean, I could take it off the network, but based on how my VM networking is set up, I don't think I have like an added environment to have it be accessible over here by my Fedora VM. That is super aggravating. All right, well, we'll get as far as we can in the next 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and once more, with feeling, revert my snapshot. So glad I have the snapshot. That's pretty great. Let's power this back on. I'm going to go after that cron job. I'm going to turn that off. And then I would really like to go back and see if I could have gotten this thing to work without needing to base64 encode the payload. I really didn't want to do that large amount of extra padding. I'm going to get that interpreter shell. I mean, I am going to get it. I thought we'd spend more time, like, setting up, I guess we did set up the target quite a bit, and encoding is a pretty serious problem. But here we are. Okay, kill DNS. That is a great idea. Let's go in and kill DNS. I can't do that when I'm root. Oh, dang. You are going to update things. Then you can't be trusted to talk to anyone. Straight up get rid of the update. Yeah, we're gonna get rid of that. Let's get rid of the update. Let's see what. I want to find out what the script was called again. Okay, so not only are we going to do this, we're going to straight up remove it. We are going to symlink that to dev null so it can't be overwritten. So if they try to like rewrite the file, I mean, like I'm guessing it's being done programmatically. I doubt they would account for the fact that maybe they account for the fact that it exists, but if they try to just like overwrite it, it should just go into dev null and it should still be something that's not going to be executable. So other people have also been wondering about permanently disabling auto updates. Well, if I figure it out first, I will post it and everyone can watch this like 15-minute video where I am holding myself together to not weep from having lost those like 20 minutes. Okay, we are at 1146. We disabled DNS. It's probably not, realistic in production, but YOLO. We killed the cron job and we removed the script and linked it to dev null. That's pretty aggressive. But yeah, I mean, I really think this should work now. Let's run this. Okay, ls temp. And 61 is in there. Okay, so it is working now. Now, I was worried about that equal sign, so let's double check that first. You're probably all sick and tired of watching me double check things, but like, I would rather check something like 15 times than move forward with the assumption that it's working, for the exact reason that I've been bitten today by assuming that I was able to successfully disable auto updates. That is problematic. That is a huge problem. So I'd rather test things, 15 times before doing that. But anyways, so we just ran it. This one had a space or an equal sign in it, so that's perfectly fine. So let's keep going here. Let's set our payload back to the one that I really care about. Of course, this is using the Python adapter versus TCP. Huh? Hey, and it's finally working. Jeez, thank you. All right, cool. Well, that was a lot more complicated than it needed to be. Okay, so let's bring this on back. Again, I don't necessarily want to have to use this. I remember at one point I got the command to be what it needed without having to go in. It might have been this one. I might have kept that. I'm gonna kill that session. Let's rerun it. Did that work? I know it was really close to this. You know what? This is actually recorded. I am not going to keep anyone up with this. I will go back. I'll go back actually through the recording and figure out at what point I had it. Because at one point I had a command where like I could copy and paste it and it was working. I was like thoroughly confused at why it wasn't working for the exploits. Probably because the system was patched at that time. Here. But yeah, I'd really like to remove that base 64 encoding. Anyways, based on like the headers and everything, let's switch this back over to that 302. Can rerun this again. Got our sending stage. And so you can see it's hanging right here. That last time I control seed, it is most likely because the web server is waiting on the output from the command before it's returning the response. That becomes a problem sometimes. We can address that in a few different ways. Meterpreter has a built-in forking functionality, so it's already trying to fork immediately, so that's not going to help it. We might end up running into this nil though if it hangs for long enough, but we know the payload executed could we get our stage back, so we'll need to go ahead and update this bit right here because we don't want it to say that it failed when it definitely succeeded. What I would like to do is figure out some kind of a way for it to return the command result immediately. So we are piping this in, and then bash is probably going to hang. I mean, we might be able to just do something as easy as backgrounding it. Yeah, here we go. So we see unreachable, the HTTP request failed, and we know that unreachable is because the response was nil. That's because we never got that HTTP response. So, and we still don't have our HTTP request. Let's see. So we need some kind of a way to get that HTTP request back. I mean, like ideally, if we don't, that's fine. But if we lose that, we would basically be stuck with the status of this down here. I mean, I guess if we're checking, it should be okay. We can probably just, yeah. let's go ahead and just remove this out. Set this on up into here. And yeah, we'll just leave it like this because there doesn't seem to be an easy way to get it to return immediately. So let's see. Okay, so we have that in place. Let's see if we can go ahead and drop a Linux payload because we just dropped the Python interpreter. So let's see if we can do a Born payload. I don't want to hard code it to curl for reasons I won't get into. And there's no reason why we can't use the staged versions. We'll switch those options around. Let's go ahead and reload this. So, all right, so now we have our two targets, set target as the Linux dropper, and let's go ahead and set our payload. As reverse TCP. Oh, I don't know why that's HTTPS. That probably wasn't going to work anyways. Okay, so this all looks correct. So what we're doing here is we're using our Linux dropper to use our command stager. So in our main run method, if the payload type is Unix command, we're just going to straight up execute the payload. And the payload is a command because it's a ArchCMD payload. But if we want to use the Linux dropper, we need to use the command stager. So we're going to call execute CMD stager, which you won't see defined in this module. Execute CMD stager is provided by this mixin up here that I mentioned at the start of the stream, this command stager mixin. And what this requires us to do is define the execute payload function, which we've done down here. And then once we've defined this function, we can call execute CMD stager, and it is going to run multiple OS commands to transfer the binary up, write it to disk, change the permissions on it, and then go ahead and execute it for us, which will get us native code execution. Native code execution, in this case being like AMD64, is going to be much better because our AMD64 payloads, like Metal, is just a better payload. It's going to be faster because it's implemented in C. It has some different functionality than Python. You don't have to have the Python interpreter available for it. All of those types of things make it a better payload, especially on Windows. The native Windows interpreter is by far the most featureful, feature-complete payload that we have. Like we don't have like the Kiwi extension for like Linux and stuff like that. So it makes a bigger deal on Windows than it does on Linux. And you can use the command stager on Windows. So it's not fully irrelevant because we're not attacking Windows this time, but we're doing it on Linux. Now, I've talked about all the reasons why the command stager is great and super useful. There's one major drawback, and that's that you do end up writing the payload onto disk, which is a huge red flag for antivirus. We're not running into antivirus on CentOS. That's not going to be a problem at all, but in other environments like on Windows, that's going to be a major problem. What you can do is you can look at the advanced options, and this is getting into user territory, not module developer territory, but over here there is a custom payload that you can set. There's like a custom exe somewhere around here. Might not actually be registered because I'm not attacking Windows, and exe would be this payload advanced options. Here we are. exe custom. You can basically specify your own custom exe that bypasses the antivirus using your super fancy proprietary method, and the command stager will run that one for you. So that's one way to get around that. Anyways, I've been talking for long enough. Let's own this system. Okay, so we ran that again, and we can see each time that it's running the OS commands again. So we got to our sending stage. This one was pretty quick. It's telling us it is invalid. So like the session got open, but then it got closed. Let's make sure it's not still, okay, so it's still expecting Python. Let's kill that job because we are not doing that. Let's go ahead and run this one more time. That returned immediately, and huzzah, now we have a Linux interpreter, just like that. So we spent almost all of our time working on that execute command function, but that's because that is the core of the vulnerability, and we're able to use the command stager to be able to go ahead and drop the Linux interpreter. We have, of course, other payloads, like if you just wanted like a straight up shell, you'd be able to drop that in as well. and the command stager would do the same thing. And it's locked up right now. Okay, here we are. And we'll get our shell, but there's probably not gonna be a prompt or anything like that. So I'm just gonna type in like ID here. It takes a couple of seconds because it has to do some validation on the back end to make sure the shell is like up and running and everything. While that is working correctly, I want to go back. I believe, yeah, this was root. So we got root level access on this. So that's pretty nice. Oh no, this ended up failing on our shell. So I'll have to check that out. That may have just been a fluke. But okay, so far working on this exploit. I want to thank everyone for bearing with me. This was my longest stream so far, but I've been looking forward to doing like some actual exploit development. So we got started from the ground up. I, of course, copied and pasted from another module, but we deleted everything out. We went through all of the module metadata information, and then we dove into the actual vulnerability and getting that set up. We spent most of our time configuring like the payload options, so that way we would have the way to get around the bad characters and everything, and get a more complicated one like the Python interpreter. I've been working on it, and we also got that wired in for the command stager. Now, the next things I'm going to end up doing before I go ahead and PR this is closing out all my to-do tags. I would still like to get rid of the base64 encoding, so that way I can include this as larger. This is particularly useful for the command stager, because the command stager has to run commands to like chunk up the payload. So if you have a larger set of usable space, because you're not inflating it via base64, you have to run fewer commands, and that means a faster exploit. So that's really nice. And then after that, I would go ahead and work on the check method, and we would just probably go ahead and execute the sleep command. Let's see, I was kind of really looking forward to doing this one live, and we have a few more minutes, so let's go ahead and do that, actually. The show is not over, folks. So we recently added in a stopwatch function. It's like literally what it's called to like properly record the time. In Metasploit. It does fancy things like accounting for like the time zone, and like it does it like technically correct as it can possibly be done. So we can time our operations. I just need to remember the exact API. Okay, so I need to pull this in, and these are all probably examples of modules that are doing the exact same thing. So I'm going to include the rec stopwatch. So this is not a mixin, this is a library. So rec stopwatch is included in rec's core, and so that's why I need to go ahead and include that. We don't need to include most things in Metasploit these days because a fancy thing called Zywork handles it all for us. The things that are not actually shipped in like the Metasploit tree still need to be Zyworked, I think. So that's why I am requiring that. And yeah. What luck. This is basically exactly what we're going to go ahead and do. Can we copy and paste all of this? We're going to stopwatch, inject command, sleep time with the timeout. Yeah, I think we can pretty much copy and paste all of this and get our check method working, because we're not going to have one that can do the version detection. So we are not doing inject command, though. We are doing execute command. Yes, we will go ahead. That is not what our function is called. So we are going to select a random amount of time between 5 and 10 seconds. We can do use, yeah, okay, there it is. The elapsed time. That's what we want to do. Stopwatch with that capital. We don't really care about the result. And let's come on down. So we are strictly going to time the operation because we can't really reliably check the response, because it's not like the command output is included. We don't have timeout support. We don't have injected. Okay. Because if the command times out, we won't get any response at all. So, yeah, we would end up going with safe. But otherwise, it is going to appear as though it is vulnerable. You could probably... probably swap this out for vulnerable because we are actually leveraging the vulnerability to do this, but we'll be a little bit conservative here. Geez, muscle memory here. I'm just rerunning it again. Let's go ahead and reload, and this time we're going to go ahead and run through the check method. So it is sleeping. It should be sleeping for a couple of seconds, which is why we see it hang right here. And there we go. So it did sleep out for 5 seconds. So now to prove that this is actually working, so we have a true positive because we know the system is vulnerable unless it updated again. Oh goodness, I hope it didn't update again. Let's set the target URI. So let's go ahead and do check target URI equals, we're going to set the target URI to a bad one. That's going to cause it to return immediately. So we got our 302. Okay, so we have a false negative on our successfully executed command. That is just incorrect. But the check method, the good news is that the check method did properly identify that the target is not exploitable. It knows it's not exploitable because we got that response back immediately. So we're on the right track there. I hate to say it, but I think I need to spend a good amount of time figuring this out. So that's unless that is a 302, because that returned back a 302. I mean, I might be able to analyze the 302 a little bit more thoroughly because I think when we were exploiting it, there was no location header. That's probably a decent tell. Because typically if you have a 302, you are going to have a location header. Let's see what the location header actually is though. Okay, that's going to be log on failed. That's actually probably pretty good because we are specifying the index.php. And so I don't think it would refer us to index.php with logon failed unless we had attempted to log on. Because over here, when the target URI was incorrect intentionally, we don't get the logon failed part of it. So let's check this out. Is this line starting to get a little long? And res.headers location. Let's do dot include logon equals failed. Because the logon will fail when the command is successful. Let's pull that back on out and in my check method, I'll have to handle that fail with clause because you shouldn't be failing with in check methods. So we're checking the true positive here first. This takes a few seconds because, of course, the nature of what we're doing. Target appears to be vulnerable. Successfully tested command injection. Okay, cool. So we got the true positive is working. What about the true negative? Perfect. The true negative is also correct. We got an unexpected reply. The state cannot be determined. Oh, okay. So this is actually where we got to catch that. Let's see here. You would want to include that in with the command stagers. So yeah, we're going to end up having to let's just straight up return that condition here, and we will move this on out into here. We don't need to print out that we successfully executed every single command in the command stager. So we'll bump this on out. So we're switching it to return a Boolean value instead of failing with there. And see, what was that fail with originally? And then I'll swap that back out so that if you're running like exactly one command, it will still fail with. If you didn't get it, I mean, like, I'm just thinking because like the command stager still, like if you disable auto check and you run the command stager, you still wouldn't get an immediate failure, which would probably be a problem. Let's remove that either way. I still think that's a little overly verbose. Bring that on down with true. We'll just leave that like that. I really only want to see this when we are running the specific command. And command is not defined. We're going to swap this on out and here. I cannot remember the type of exception. I want to say this is a runtime exception. Fail with super. Okay. Yeah, there's other instances of that. The amount of time I'm spending like grepping through the code base, everyone's probably wondering if it's like my first time. Oh, here we go. Okay, so for auxiliaries, it's going to be auxiliary failed. It's a good thing I checked. Okay, for most modules, it can be a runtime. Exploits are more complicated, of course. Raise exploit failed. Okay, so we'll catch that one. And we'll come up here into our check method. Failed to test command injection. And yeah, I'll just rescue right in there and return from that. That's probably pretty good. Okay, so let's check this here one more time. The target is not exploitable. That is what I wanted to see. Okay, so we are properly catching the exception. It is correctly telling us that this target is not vulnerable because I purposely set target URI to an incorrect value. So that is our check method. That is not too shabby. I like it. Okay, well, this has been fun, everyone. Again, I want to say thanks for joining me. We'll probably post this up onto YouTube, so if you're watching this in the future, I am glad you found it. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and stay tuned for next time. We're doing these every month, so the next one, so what are we doing? We're doing like the second Friday of every month, so the next one will be February 10th. And it should be a pretty cool one. We've got some really interesting, great stuff in the pipeline for Metasploit. So the next one's going to be really cool too. It's probably not going to be exploit development related. We got something a little special in mind, but if everything works out, it is definitely going to be a cool one. So feel free to kick back and check it out on February 10th. Until then, you can catch us on the Metasploit Slack and, of course, on GitHub. So thanks a lot, everyone.